someone that knows me very well, one of our partners, dropped me a ball that has a Larry Bird and a Magic Johnson signature on the ball.
Amazing!
When I came in end of 2014, there were about 25,000 people working in the DIFC, which is the financial center here. Now we're just about at 50,000, and they've just announced the extension to go to 125,000. Right, so you can see we doubled. From March till July, when we opened again, there was this real outside media buzz that this is it for the UAE. Like, we have no chance of survival, and that's it, right? And I think when you then look at the next 5 years and what has happened, the UAE has just gone this way, right?
Can you really have a KYC on an agent? And if an agent spawn up more agents, then do they all have new identifications? Like, how does that even work? Welcome to On-Chain Capital, your front row seats to the future of finance, from Web3 and AI innovation and digital asset policy to the power shift between East and West. Today, we're going to unpack it all with Tarik Chebib, CEO for Middle East and Emerging Markets at Capital.com. Tarik, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Sean, thank you for having me.
Tariq, so you and I caught up in the preparation of recording this episode, and obviously I was very much focused on your work in the Middle East and also with Capital.com. But then while I was doing the research, and you kindly shared with me that you've actually have a pro basketball career before you jump into finance. Now, on this show, I've had financial executives, I've had ex-regulators, legal professionals, founders. I don't think I've had a professional sport athlete on the show before. So tell us a little bit about what that was like and how you transitioned into what you do today.
Yeah, I mean, basketball was basically the first part of my life. The time that I spent in Germany from the age of 16 till 19 or later till 23, it was all about basketball. And by the end, just before I moved to the UK, I made it into the pro team, into the local pro team. And yeah, that was great. That taught me a lot of skills that you can't really learn anywhere outside of sport. So yeah, I've taken them on, and discipline, effort, all these kind of things, they're deeply ingrained in me.
What position did you play?
Point guard. I'm 5'11", so there's not much.
Point guard. Okay. All right. You're the agile one.
Yes, exactly. The one organizing.
Hey, excellent, excellent. So I can't help but notice you have a basketball behind you on the shelf.
Yes.
Is that one of the balls that you played with, or it's a memorabilia?
No, we didn't play with Tiffany balls, but someone that knows me very well, one of our partners, dropped me a ball that has a Larry Bird and a Magic Johnson signature on the ball.
Amazing.
So yeah, that's something that I very cherish and leave in my office.
I could see it's very centered right in your showcase there. So that's amazing. So okay, let's talk a bit about your post sports career, right? So I know you've lived in the UAE now for over 10 years, right? You've kind of seen the evolution of what the UAE, the Middle East have really evolved into, especially from a financial services and fintech perspective. Tell us a little bit about what attracted you there in the first place, but then also more importantly, if you can summarize, what is the one key thing that you think have made the Middle East and the GCC region in particular been so successful in attracting new capital into the region?
Yeah, I mean, when I came in end of 2014, there were about 25,000 people working in the DIFC, which is the financial center here. Now we're just about at 50,000, and they've just announced the extension to go to 125,000, right? So you can see we doubled in 10 years, and there's really two eras. There's the pre-COVID and the post-COVID, right? The pre-COVID, I think they did a fantastic job in making sure that the financial center gets better and better regulatory wise, attracting more and more serious kind of players. And then post-COVID, I think there was this real push to position Dubai as the place to come for foreign firms and set up for the region and for the UAE specifically. I mean, we have 5 different regulators across 150 kilometers, whether it's VARA, mostly crypto, ADGM in Abu Dhabi, DIFC here, the CMA. So we've got a bunch of different regulators, and then a central bank, obviously, regulating all sorts of different services. So every firm that wants to set up here should be able to speak to the right kind of counterpart here in the country.
So if we think about that, I mean, one thing that a lot of folks don't realize, and when they look from afar, right, they see the region very progressive. And I actually talked to a number of folks at both the IFC, VARA, and ADGM, and they always tell me, please remind your audience that we're not lax in our rules, right? We're actually very strict in our rules, right? We're just progressive because we want to move fast. Is that how you see it in your tenure in they're working with the regulators and the licensing process?
Yeah, I mean, from a licensing process, it's gotten faster and faster. The regulator replies within 2 weeks, which is crazy.
Incredible.
When you think about, somewhere in Europe where it takes much, much longer, right? So the turnaround times here are much, much faster because they are pro-business, right? That does not mean that once you have a license, they will not regulate you as tightly as anywhere else in the world. And I've witnessed this every year. The audit has become tougher and tougher, and now we are at world-class standards that are being enforced. And you would have seen in the press there were many fines issued lately to make sure that the UAE just continues on this path of better and better regulatory framework to attract the right kind of firms, because without that, no one serious wants to set up shop here.
And are you seeing the same type of framework and licensing regimes, not only in the UAE, but also in Saudi, Bahrain, other surrounding regions as well within the GCC? Is everyone trying to kind of get up to a certain part and develop the entire region rather than just the UAE that has been at the forefront for the last 10, 15 years?
Yeah, I think, Bahrain historically has been a great financial center for the region, and they're definitely positioning themselves to continue developing in regulation. And Saudi Arabia, I mean, is catching up with all sorts of different parts, and financial services is one of their pillars. So everyone is trying and pushing in the right kind of direction, and that creates competition between regulators and between countries. And I think that is only good for the consumer and for firms here, so that everyone has their options and can pick what is best for their setup.
So one thing that I was catching from your earlier conversation, you talk about the multiple phases, right? There is the pre-COVID, there's a post-COVID. I can't help but think, okay, so before we get to the current situation, right? Even then, post-COVID to now, there has been about 4, 5, 6 years of very rapid kind of policy stance towards developing the UAE into a digital asset center or digital asset hub. And how did that come about? Because if you think about it, these are very new technology, very new asset class, and honestly, until the last maybe 18 months, we really haven't had very robust regulatory framework that you can model after, right? There is the MiCA regime in Europe, but even in the US, there's been this kind of fight, back and forth, is the security commodities back and forth for a long time until recently. So what do you think was some of the first push to really move towards that direction and then really develop things so quickly? Now it is now becoming a beacon in terms of where innovation is happening with balanced regulation.
Yeah. I think if you look at the UAE and how the UAE sets up a framework for everyone that wants to come here, right? I mean, look at people like you and me. You come and set up here, and there's no personal income tax, and all the government services are online or on an app. And so the ease of doing business is always something that helps the UAE attract businesses, right? And when you look at a part of financial services that isn't fully regulated yet, there was this opportunity to attract large players, right? And whether it's exchanges or WASPs or whatever it is, they were very good at attracting them by making the overall package very attractive for these firms, right? Because you have to relocate people, you need a strong regulator that allows you to operate in the country, but also further afield, right? So all of these things, the Dubai package works for a lot of different people. And I think that's why, especially post-COVID, they were so successful in attracting many of these crypto, NFT, metaverse, all of these kind of that whole ecosystem, Web3, they all came here. And once you're here, it's very difficult to leave.
It's amazing because a few episodes ago, I had the co-CEO of Binance on the show, Richard Tang. And obviously, before he became the co-CEO of Binance, he was a regulator at ADGM. So he was sharing quite a bit about kind of his whole journey, his whole experience, coming from a Singapore regulator and then becoming ADGM for a number of years and really help see through a lot of the development of digital assets. And I think he echoes a lot of what you just shared, right? Like it's the friendliness, it's the way of thinking that really want you to do business rather than purely regulating for regulating's sake. And I think that's a really key, difference in terms of industry practitioners' feeling on going into the region. So if we look at that phase, and then obviously now coming into 2026, we're not coming into, we're already in May. Obviously, the Middle East has been going through a lot of circumstances, right, over the last 3 months. So I have to ask you, right, and this is your personal view. I have to ask you, do you think the Middle East, especially the UAE, will come back the same way? Once hopefully very soon everything will get cleared up. What do you think? Because I cannot help but think that yes, a lot of people left during all the conflict. Some of them have returned. But I wonder if the threat or the risk management aspect, both from a family perspective and also from a business side, might have changed the dynamic somewhat.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go back to the reference point that I've experienced and as maybe closest to this, which is COVID, right? In COVID, there were about 1 million people that left very quickly in 2020 because hospitality was down, airlines were down, a lot of jobs, just retail was down, a lot of jobs just didn't exist anymore. And so they left. And then I remember 21 and 22 where Emirates was hiring 500 people every week as quickly as they could to get all the operations back up and running, right? And at that point, from March till July, when we opened again, there was this real outside media buzz that this is it for the UAE. Like we have no chance of survival, and that's it, right? And I think when you then look at the next 5 years and what has happened, the UAE has just gone this way, right? So many people came to this country afterwards. I think we added net 2-3 million people that came to the country. And so we're in a very similar kind of situation. Now it's a different kind of reason why this has happened, right? And there's the safety aspect, which was the brand symbol of Dubai, that a lot of people came here, right? But what you learn from the COVID experience is that Dubai is the master of reinventing itself. And so if I had to answer your question, it's not just will they come back or will it be like before? I don't think that it will be like before, but I think that we will go through this transition period and there will be a new way of Dubai, right? And whether that's real estate or financial services, or it doesn't matter which sector, the government is very strong in these kind of circumstances and reinventing themselves and enabling new businesses, new ways of working together. And if you can look at the response over the last kind of 2 months to the aggression and how safe everyone has felt being here on the ground, even though there was a war going on, right? That is just tremendous. And no one had seen the foresight of the country and how much they had prepared and planned and protected the citizens that are living here. So yes, I think things will change, but I don't think that Dubai will be down. I think this is a blip and we will continue rising. And it's probably, I'm biased. I've been here 11 years, but now there's traffic jams again, which is great. Everyone was saying, "Oh, there's too much traffic," and now there's traffic jams again. And I think the people that have lived here for a while, they're happy that we're going back to Dubai life. I know many people personally that have left, and they were very happy to come back because wherever they had gone to, They have enjoyed it for a little bit, but they're also very happy to be back and be able to live the lives that they have built here in the UAE.
So the traffic is back. Huh? I remember I was in the UAE for Abu Dhabi Finance Week back in December last year. And going from Abu Dhabi back to Dubai, it took about an hour and 15 minutes. Pretty smooth traffic. And then as soon as I hit the outskirts, it's another hour of just sitting on the highway. So I kept thinking, what is going on here, right? This is just so many people, so many cars. And, the funny thing is, I draw back to what you're mentioning, Tariq, in terms of the drawing from your experience during COVID. Actually, if I were to go back, I almost went to the Middle East for a relocation back in 2010, 2009 and 2010. And I remember being at the opening ceremony for the Burj Khalifa because I was in the data center business at the time. And I remember going onto the observation tower and looking down. And this was after the financial crisis. And there were a severe lack of liquidity, capital going in. And I remember seeing someone right beside me saying, oh, look, the palm is sinking because they're not building on top of it anymore. And now, of course, give it 15 years later, the palm's still there. There's more, right? There's more man-made, superstructures that are all over the place. So I can get a sense from what you're saying. That one was caused by the global financial crisis. Then you have COVID. And now you've got, global military conflict and various different challenges, but certainly, an opportunity to reinvent itself and continue to grow. So I'm very glad to hear you say that. And I think a lot of guests on my show that have spent enough time in the UAE all share the same sentiment. So very, very happy to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, it's to be seen what happens in the near term, but long term, I'm very sure that the UAE will do very well.
Still very optimistic. Awesome. Okay, so let's dive a little bit into capital.com, right? So you're the CEO of the MENA region, the emerging markets. What I wanted to ask, though, is, if you think about we talk about the post-COVID era, and I would also call it the digital asset boom era, right? The last couple of cycles really happened, crypto cycles that have happened at that time. And a lot of the narrative was really around assets, right? Crypto native assets, the Bitcoins, the Ethereums, the Solanas, the altcoins, the NFTs and meme coins, God forbid, and everything else around it. But I think the narrative has really changed a lot, right? There is a lot more of talk of real world assets, tokenized, natively on the blockchain, in conjunction with crypto native assets, as well as other assets that's already in the financial system. Are you seeing, kind of through your job and through capital.com, this notion that the transition from crypto to multi-assets is happening in front of us right now? Or do you think we're still not there yet? Like, do you think we've crossed a chasm in terms of making tokenized assets on the blockchain to become a thing?
Yeah, all right. I'll give you my view. I interact with retail traders all the time, and I can tell you, I've joined this business just after COVID, and I can tell you the evolution of what I have seen. And so you see retail traders being very attracted to cryptos and a crypto exposure in this market, right? And that's how it started. And whether it was Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then a long list of other kind of coins, right? And, because we had about 400 of them on our platform, we saw huge interest. And there's these two kind of catalysts in the country. One is local stocks, and the other one is crypto trading. And a lot of that attracts a lot of people into trading, right? And that was the first kind of wave of people that all of a sudden woke up and said, after COVID, I want to manage my own money and I want to get exposure, right? And then I think over the last couple of years, this multi-asset kind of idea, I mean, the UAE has always been a trading nation. Commodities have always been very, very important to it. And so we see huge interest in commodities, and it's actually the most traded asset class for us. And yes, now with the conflict, obviously oil is in the mix, but generally it's gold, it's natural gas, it's silver, it's cacao at some point. So commodities are always very important. But to answer your question, whether we're ready for tokenization of all sorts of different assets, I mean, I know from I had meetings at Abu Dhabi Finance Week, where we were discussing exactly that, where people are tokenizing real estate, tokenizing, art, watches. There's all sorts of different things that will be tokenized in the future, right? I don't think a mainstream has adopted this yet. I think the regulatory framework is ready for it. I think there's first few attempts that have received regulation. But I think the general public needs to get used to this before this will see wide kind of adoption amongst people here in the Middle East.
So let's stay on that for a bit, right? Because a couple of episodes ago, I had Scott Teal, the CEO of TokenVest, VARA licensed broker-dealer, talking about tokenizing real estate, exactly to your point, and also tokenizing, I think he mentioned race horses, right? So very, very unique type of asset that normally you wouldn't think about putting on the blockchain, right? It's kind of on one side. And then I also had on an episode Sandy Cole from Franklin Templeton. Obviously, her focus, a lot of it is around tokenizing financial product. But I think the key difference that she was looking at was tokenizing financial products natively on the blockchain rather than creating it offline first in the traditional manner and then creating a digital replica. So are you starting to see the difference? Well, first of all, the retail investors that you deal with, do they care whether it's natively created or not? So that's the first question. The second question is, are you seeing the discrepancy between the two types of tokenization engine or process and whether that's really going, one is going to win out over the other? That's the two questions I wanted to ask you.
If I have to be absolutely honest, and this is obviously my own opinion,
certainly,
I don't think that the retail public cares. I think technically
I see.
in the background, in how a financial instrument is wrapped or is presented, isn't really the problem here. The retail public cares about exposure. If an asset goes up, is this being replicated in the way that I'm trading it? And if that is the case, and money flows are easy in and out, and there's strong regulation around it, then I think the public will be interested in it no matter what.
So then that means there's have to be that trust factor, right? Because you have to trust the company that have issued these assets in whichever form, whether it's native or not, so that the investors can actually believe in the fact that these assets, these tokens, actually represent the underlying exposure that they're trying to get to.
Yeah, I mean, I deal in emerging markets all the time, and trust is actually the number one factor for anything, right? It's very easy to open a trading account these days with any firm around the world. But we also know that this industry has a number of players that don't really play by the rules in the way that they should. So building trust and having the right kind of regulation is the number one thing. If you don't do that, then you may have a lot of account signups, but not many people that actually trade with you. So that's always where we invest most of our time in, from choosing where our office is, to how we speak to people, to how we communicate with them, what kind of license we get. That you have to solve first before you can even think, is my product going to work or is it not going to work? Like, spend a lot of time thinking, how am I going to communicate with the people out there? And what are their alternative options, right? If you have something that you're already trusting that is very easy, then it will be a big uphill battle for you to fight this. And you need to show why you're necessarily better. It's the same in my industry. Why should I choose you over a competitor? Right? If I already have the app, I'm already used to them. Why would I switch now? And if you don't have any arguments, it will be very difficult for you to win a new customer.
So it's not always a cost game or variety. It's actually, you're right. I mean, it has to be trust, right? We put money in the bank because we trust the bank, even though we know full well that the bank is actually using our money to invest and do other things, right? But that's the fundamental aspect in terms of kind of financial services that we get access to. And I think it should apply to everything, including digital assets.
I think what you just said, is it just a cost thing, right?
Right.
If people understand that financial services is always A times B times C times D, it's never A plus B plus C plus D, which means that if one of them is zero and trust is one of them, then you're just not going to win. right? So you got to get a number of different things. Pricing is obviously one of them. Regulation is another one. The app or the access, ease of use is a third one. So you need to get a number of things right to be able to succeed overall.
Wow, I'm gonna have to steal that one, Tariq. That's amazing. So it is a times, not plus, right? This is not an aggregate because one thing falls apart, then you might have short-term success, but you're not gonna have long-term sustainability. So that's really a really good point. I'm hoping the audience can actually grasp, especially those founders that are looking to gain experience from folks like you that have kind of gone through the process. So amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so maybe my last question, right? Like this world that we live in today, are all exploding in terms of the use of AI. And there is use of AI in both trading bots, right? On one side, there is also this notion of agentic payment and agentic commerce and so on. But I can't help but think back, right? 10, 15 years ago even, we already had things like robo-advisors, right? They automatically create these algorithms. You can give it logics and will automatically recommend, and it may not execute on your behalf. I don't think it was doing that back then, but it had these elements in there already. Do you see that the AI trading aspects that everyone's talking about, giving an AI agent a wallet and give a stablecoin and then give it permissions and they'll just monitor and trade on your behalf? Do you actually see that as more of a phase right now that we're like, oh, there's so much possibility, but in reality, we're still a bit far off from it? What is your personal view?
Yeah, I mean, you and I, we can both take a position in any asset right now, and we probably have a different outcome, right? Because you are maybe differently wired to me. You may be more greedy than me, or may be more fearful than you, or I react to a news announcement in a different way than you react to that news announcement. We could have a million different possibilities, right? And that's how the market is made, right? Even at an institutional level, there are still people that are trading the money, right? So this notion of everything is just going to go to robo-advisors, AI, or whatever the next thing is very far-fetched from where the reality is. I think we see augmented traders that use these tools to make better kind of decisions, which is great, right? But I doubt that people will just give all their money into an AI and hope for the best, right? Because if that was the case, the other people would also be using AI, and it would just be fighting AIs against each other, which would mean that there's again arbitrage opportunities, and I don't think that we're going there. I think humans. I mean, any news piece that comes out, whether Trump is tweeting or whatever happens in the market, so many different people take this in a completely different way, and I see this every day. So I don't think that will happen. I do think that there is a slice of the market that it will own, the same as robo-advisors, and maybe a bigger slice than robo-advisors. But I really think that people will just use these tools to prepare themselves better to make better decisions in the market.
So you think it's not just human in the loop, but it's actually humans still making the decisions and perhaps instructing the AI agents to do things on their behalf, whether it's research or potentially even executing on a particular trade, but not completely autonomous, just trading, left, right, center, right? You're not seeing that, at least not right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you another example. Remember the time when oil went to minus, right?
Yes.
It was a complete overreaction, right? How would an AI deal with that? Because it was unprecedented, right? So, yeah, exactly. So, and someone that has been in the market would see, oh, this is an overreaction, and this is now a perfect buying opportunity, right? So there's so many of these events that happen on a daily basis where, with a lot of them, the AI would probably do just fine. But then there's some that are very difficult to be explained, or you need a lot of context to get there. And I think, there's now this fascination with retail traders to trade their own money, right? And then there's institutional part. There's different parties in the market. So maybe some segments of the market will be more open to it and will adopt it quicker versus other parts, but I don't think that it will be a complete takeover by AI, and we won't see any humans interacting with the markets anymore.
I'm glad to hear that. I mean, us as humans,
Yes,
we still have a job to do, right? There's no things
exactly.
that we hold true. It is our human nature. It is our intellect. It is our knowledge. It is our correlation capabilities. I do agree. I think the agents can provide a lot of utility in terms of doing what we do, but leaving it completely at the whim of the agents. First of all, it's not happening right now. It's not happening anytime soon. At least I don't see it. I agree with you. Down the road, who knows? But there's so many things that needs to cross a line first, right? Like I remember talking to someone earlier about this very same topic, slightly different direction. But one thing that he brought up immediately was, so who's going to authenticate these AI agents, right? Every humans have bank accounts, brokerage accounts, and so on. Can you really have a KYC on an agent? And if an agent spawn up more agents, then do they all have new identifications? Like, how does that even work? I think creating new wallets is easy, but I think getting back to your point about trust, how do you trust this actor that's now in the loop
Yep.
to be a real actor? And a real could be agentic, but a real actor with the right authority and the right intentions to be able to do the right thing. And I almost feel like I don't want every conversations to be about regulation, but there has to be some guardrails around how this is done, right?
I mean, look at autonomous cars, right? I mean,
Right.
the US
Yes.
has proven that you can get around San Francisco or other kind of large towns in an autonomous car. And even in the UAE, we've launched 100 taxis. But how long will it take for the whole world to be on autonomous cars? And some areas they will probably never be on there, right? That's the same with AI agents. Yes, there need to be guardrails. There needs to be a lot of testing. Then there needs to be so many different things before this has large scale adoption.
Tariq, we just spent half an hour covering so many different topics, from your pro basketball, professional career, to the ball that's behind you, signed by Magic Johnson, to your kind of 10 years, 10 plus years now in the UAE, and seeing really the evolution of the region and of the Emirates in terms of what it has been able to do. And of course, we just covered the last part with where we think AI is going in the world of capital management and trading. So thank you so much for sharing your insights. I hope to have you back on the show again and share additional insight in terms of things that you're seeing, not only in the region, but also in the world of on-chain capital. Tariq, thank you so much for coming here.
Sean, thank you so much for having me. I had a good time, and I wish you all the best for your podcast, and I'll keep listening.
Thank you. And I hope to see you in person very soon.